Hi, good evening, everyone. This is the Planning Board meeting of May 25th, 2021. See, we're downstairs tonight. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. I almost
All right, thank you.
say the same thing. Amen.
See, this proceedings will be videotaped and rebroadcast by Area 58 TV, and this meeting will be conducted in person via Zoom, and the link is on our website, for the Planning Board website. First thing on we have a lot to do tonight, so I'm going to try to move along. Then I see some additional papers here. So anyway, first thing we got is rescinding of Old Forge Drive subdivision. And so rescinding of a subdivision formerly Deacon's Cranberry Processing Facility, now owned by Fruit Door Real Estate USA Corporation. Could you speak about this, Jim?
Sure. This requires a public hearing, so I advise the applicant that they have to advertise for a public hearing, and I'm recommending that we set the public hearing date as July 13th.
All right, so, okay, I'll entertain a motion to, so you're just gonna, we don't even have to do a vote on this, do we, or we're just gonna continue? You're gonna inform them that they have
The language from
to?
the attorney was, well, the planning board has to set a public hearing, so,
Okay,
from our attorney, so.
all right. So we're gonna set this for a public hearing date of, entertain a motion to set this as a public hearing on the date of July 13th at 7 o'clock.
Move as stated.
Second. All right. So we have a motion and we have a second. Further discussion? Those in favor, do we have to do a roll call vote?
Yeah, probably best to be just.
Okay, start with Mr. Shea.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sordillo, aye.
All right, thank you. So that'll be set for July 13th. It's a public hearing. See, next we have a minor modification before us, Cranberry Point Energy Storage LLC, 31 Rear Main Street, map 61, lot 10-0-R and 7-0-R. And, yeah, who's here to speak about this tonight?
We have Allison Sand from Plus Power tonight.
Okay, so we do have, let me just start off by saying that this is an energy storage area that the past planning board approved, and it's off of Main Street, and it's in Carver, and it's, the exact location is 31 Rear Main Street, and planning board approved it, and so now it's come before us for some modifications. And so if you could, I looked through the package and I saw a plan, and it showed where there were to be a bunch of storage units that were going to store electricity that had been approved in the past by the planning board. And so I guess those are going to be moved around somewhat. I was surprised. I couldn't really tell. I had forgotten what we had approved last time, and I didn't really have anything to compare with, the old plan compared to the new plan.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well, actually.
Great. I'm happy to give a little overview if that's helpful.
Okay, yeah, please.
Okay, great. First, I just want to say Polly Shaw, my colleague, is on Zoom as well. And then we do have Chris Quaranta in the audience with you today. Chris, if you want to give a wave. Chris is our senior project development engineer based out of Massachusetts, who's also working on the Cranberry Point Energy Storage Project, Core Plus Power. So just wanted to introduce my colleagues first. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give a little background on the couple of minor modifications that are included in the package that's in front of you all. As you mentioned, this is for the storage project off of Main Street in Carver. We attended the March meeting over Zoom as well to move forward with the extension of our site plan and special permit that was granted back in 2019 to better align with our expected construction and commercial operation dates that we have planned for the facility. And mentioned at that time that we had a couple updates to the site plan, so just wanted to go over those quickly. First, we've received updated information from Eversource, who owns and utilizes the substation that's directly north of our project site. And so through the interconnection study process that projects like this go through, we've received updated information from them as to exactly how much space they will require for the substation facilities that will be located on the western side of the project area, as you can see in that site plan. That area stayed the same. We've just increased that size based on recent feedback from Eversource. So those facilities will be in place to essentially interconnect the project to the existing electrical infrastructure that's on the west side of the project. And so with that increase in size of the substation area, more of the battery enclosures are located on that eastern side of the project, as you can see. Additionally, we've been working with our landowner and accommodating their preferences and our preferences on exact project area boundaries. So the southwestern corner of the project area and the southeastern corner of the project area were slightly updated as well in coordination with the property owner. And then lastly, we just removed the northernmost access point that was originally coming from the existing access road from Main Street to our project area because it was in an existing transmission corridor that was owned by Eversource. So we essentially just added a new access point on the eastern side of the project area. So we now have two access points on the eastern side from the existing access road, as well as one emergency access point from the Carver substation, which is north of our project, into the new substation facility area set aside in our project area. So we're still in compliance with the site plan and special permit conditions that were outlined back in 2019. And also are in compliance with the Carver Conservation Commission's order of conditions as well. And we were able to meet with the Carver Fire Department back at the end of last month in April to just give them this update as well and discuss the access points to ensure that they have adequate access for emergency vehicles and really appreciated their coordination and review of those updates. So we look forward to continuing the coordination during this development phase, and then prior to a building permit and electrical permit submittal, we'll come back to the planning board with our final design to show compliance with all of those conditions. So we're requesting approval tonight for these minor modifications outlined in that application, and appreciate your review and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm still a little confused what's being added and subtracted. For the engineer that's here, I do have a couple of sets of plans here, and I'm not sure what's new and what's old. Could you come over here and kind of explain this to the board members?
So Bruce, the color copy is from the previous application, and then the black and white one is the new proposal.
Okay.
So they're taking quite a few of those containers and shifting them from over by the, what do you call it, the
Transmission area,
yeah,
the easement.
transmission area, over to the opposite side, to the right-hand side of the figure.
Okay.
It looks like they moved the project substation too.
Okay, so the color one is what was proposed and what was approved by the planning board a while back, and then this black and white is what is now proposed. I don't know how anybody feels about this. Just want to state that there's only 2 planning board members here that were here originally for the original application and approval, and the rest of the members here are all new members. So I was thinking, I don't know how everybody feels here, but before we did this as a minor site plan approval for a minor site plan change, I was wondering if members of the board would feel better if we took a walk out there. If everybody feels that that's necessary, it might be a useful thing to do.
Yeah, well, I was just kind of wondering, because it looks to me like it's more of a major modification than a minor modification, but,
Well, I think if you go out there and you take a look, there's the cell tower, if you notice where the cell tower is. I know that when we walked out there at first, there's the cell tower's here, and then Route 50, and then Main Street is out here, so we had to come down a driveway to get to this place. And there's actually a berm out here, so you really can't see anything from Main Street. So, and then all the rest of this stuff was cranberry bogs and stuff like that, so it was kind of out of sight from everybody. And actually, it looks to me that there was a concern by one of the former planning board members that people across the transmission lines would be able to see some of this. But as I look at it now, it looks like it would even be improved the way it is. So, but I mean, if we want to go out, I think it's an important project. You might want to take a look at it. Could we do that? Could we, I know last time the planning board went out and did this on the original application, the corners of the areas where the containers were going to be placed were marked out so that we could see where they are. And then we would just kind of walked around to where everything was going to be. And I think, mostly out here, it's pretty remote, and I think, it's a better situation. That this plan even makes it better. It's kind of hidden by the woods, cranberry bogs, and then there's a big berm, earthen berm. I figured it was like, I don't know, 20 feet high anyway. It was a large berm out there. I don't know if that's still there or not. So is it all right if we have the corners of the container field marked out so that we could do a site walk on this?
Ellison?
Sorry, are you asking if it's that, we can definitely set something like that up.
Okay.
I'm happy to coordinate.
Yeah. I think that in order for the board to see that this may be a minor modification just in the area that it's in, I mean, there are a lot of containers that have been moved around. It's within the footprint, but just so that everybody could see that
May I ask if it's a possibility to approve the minor modifications with the condition that the site walk occurs within a set amount of time and to ensure that there aren't any concerns after that walk is finished?
Well, how much construction's been done out there?
Zero.
The project has not started construction and won't
There's-
be starting construction likely until 2023. So right now, we're just updating the board on the recent minor changes that we've had since the approval back in 2019. So this project is not yet under construction.
I don't know,
I would prefer to see it.
I would
done.
prefer to see it. I mean, given that nothing's even going on right now, not until for another 2 years. What's another 2 weeks?
so,
Just to give a little background as well, which I might have mentioned back in March, we are continuing the state level permitting process here shortly, so that is part of the reason that we're coming back at this time prior to continuing the Energy Facility Siting Board approval. So that really is the time sensitivity of wanting to provide the updates to the planning board and then progress with the state level permitting so that we can keep on track with the construction schedule that we have planned. Just to give a little more background on the timing.
well, it seems like most of the planning board members kind of want to go out and walk the site before we approve this as a minor modification. So I know that everybody has their schedules and everybody's trying to do everything as quickly as possible, but if we had our past planning board members here, it might be a little easier, but with the new planning board members here, they may just want to see the site, so.
Also, are there any other abutters that we need to worry about?
Well, this is a minor modification, so we don't have to send out notices for this. But I think if you see the site, there are abutters there, but I think it's Mr. Weston who's here. It's mostly on his property, and everything else is very far away. So that's why I said, maybe we should do a site walk out there, and then you'd kind of appreciate how remote this is. All right, I guess that's what we're going to do. I know Jim is on vacation. I mean, we could do the site walk, but we're not going to have our next meeting until
June 22nd.
June 22nd. And then, then we could approve this as a minor modification. Is that going to fit into your schedule? Is that going to crash everything, or how do you feel?
I think we're absolutely happy to schedule a site walk, and if there's a possibility to do a special meeting for the condition or for the minor modification approval prior to that, that would be helpful for us in keeping on track. But we can work with the planning board and Jim to schedule that and determine next steps.
Let's see, April. So Jim is going to be out till June 4th, and he won't be back until June 7th. So our planning board meeting of the 8th is going to be canceled. So I think we're just going to have to hold to the 22nd. We'll probably have to hold to the 22nd. So then we just have to determine when we can do our site walk. And, I mean,
It,
so Jim will be back the 7th of June. If we could do the site walk sometimes that week, maybe Wednesday, the 9th,
Mondays and Fridays are best for me.
Mondays and Fridays. Well, would Monday, the 7th or the 14th be good for you, Jim?
Let's do 14th.
14th, okay. So we have been doing them at about noon time. I think that fits. I don't know about John. Are you going to be able to attend, or?
That's all going to depends on who calls me at
Okay,
whatever
okay,
time.
all right.
I will put it in my calendar here and,
We can, even
Do my
somebody
best.
can take you out there at a time that you
yeah, I
can
mean,
do.
either.
If it's marked, we can just show it to you.
Yeah, I mean, best for me is generally 8 o'clock in the morning or around 5 in the evening. Because I can, as I normally tell people, I can control when I leave, I just can't control when I get home.
You could contact Jim or I, and we could take you out there.
Yep.
Okay? So, the Monday, the 14th, at noon time, does that work for everybody?
Noontime works for me.
Okay, Monday, the 14th at noon time.
and did you mention someone was on vacation, which would prevent an earlier site walk, if I heard?
Our planner, Jim Walsh, is on vacation, and he won't be back until the 7th, but then we have a pretty packed schedule also, so we figured that the 14th would be a good day if we could have the corners of the container field marked out for us so we could see where it's going, and have somebody out there so they could explain what's going on out there, so we can show that to our new members. And then after that walk on the 22nd, we'll take a look at this for a minor modification.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. So, let's do this. So we'll have the walk on June 14th at noon time, and we'll continue this to June 22nd, although it's not a public hearing, it's for a minor modification at this point. So I'll entertain a motion to continue Cranberry Point Energy Storage LLC to be continued to June 22nd at 7 o'clock.
Motion is stated.
Seconded.
Okay, so that was John Gatsky made the motion, and Mr. Shea seconded it. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sordillo says aye.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for coming before the board tonight. I'm sorry to slow down the process. It's just that we have a new board, and I just thought that this would be the way that we would have to approach it this evening.
Thank you for your time. We'll be in touch on the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm going to take these out of order a bit. Let's go to number 4 on our list of public hearings to be continued, and this is on the application of Fuller Street in Carver, Solar LLC, requesting a special permit and site plan review and pursuant to sections 2230, 3100, 3700, 3580, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaws. And this is located at 40 Fuller Street, is to allow the construction and operations of an approximate 5 megawatt large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic and pertinent equipment, including inverters and battery storage and interconnection. And property is located in a residential agricultural district. And with this, we have opened the meeting, and this is a continuation of the meeting. And we did do a site visit at one point in time. And, yeah. So, and at that time, I think Kevin recused himself at the last couple of meetings we had on this. So we've done the site walk, and we've had the hearing. So, if you want to continue, Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Sarah Stearns with Fields and Thomas. I believe, Jim, on Zoom, we have Pat Jackson representing the applicant.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but we just want to be alerted that the hearing is up. So this is a proposed conventional solar array at 40 Fuller Street. Van Johnson is the property owner. This, just to remind the board, would retire the upland bogs where it's proposed. I'll take the mask off for this. So this is our third hearing on this project. We did have a site visit back in early April where a number of the board members were able to attend. We have received 2 peer review memos from Fuss & O'Neill and have responded. We submitted, after our last hearing when my colleague was here, a very slightly amended plan set that removed a section of the security fence outside of the 200-foot setback. There was a small corner in the northern array where it dipped into that 200-foot setback. So we just pulled that back and adjusted the panels accordingly. So that's the only change on that plan set, but that was resubmitted on May 12th. So we have heard back from Andy Glines from Fuss & O'Neill that now conforms to the setback criteria under the bylaw. So we are not requesting a waiver for that. Really, nothing else has changed since we last spoke, or since my colleague was here at our last meeting. So I guess that, if there are any remaining questions, really the request remains the same. I believe we've responded to the board's request from that meeting, as well as any remaining questions that Fuss & O'Neill has had. There have been a couple of emails back and forth over the last 2 weeks, just confirming some of those final questions that were discussed at the last meeting. So Pat or I are happy to take any remaining questions from the board members. I'm happy to do more of a refresh if anybody needs it, but I think that for our third hearing, we've kind of talked about this one for quite a while now.
So yes, this was a project where we came in, went down a road, there was a pond on the right-hand side, and as you went in, they were doing some gravel removal out there.
Yeah, that's up in this area.
Yeah, so, and it was, there weren't really any houses around in that area. There were, and then you were going to add some additional poles there, but there were already poles that existed out there.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes. The point of interconnection will come from this equipment pad on the existing dike, follow this existing dike, and just connect in this northern piece on site. So there's no interconnection on a public way. And this is proposed as overhead. We did talk about that, and we have requested a waiver under that section of the bylaw for this particular scenario.
All right, is there any questions by any planning board members. This was the one where, I think, Mr. Shea, was this the one where the fence was?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see they've adapted it to
Okay.
stay outside the 200-foot zone, so.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, by the way. I don't think that no one had flagged that, ourselves included, so.
Any other questions by planning board members? All right, anybody in the audience? And do we have a sign-in sheet for people?
That's right.
It's-
We do? Okay, yeah, that gotta be,
Yeah.
should be passed around. See
Yeah.
people coming and going, and
It's been passed.
just make sure that everybody signs that when they come in. Thank you. All right, anybody in the audience, once more, have any questions? Well, seeing none, entertain a motion to, before we do that, Jim, do you have a decision written out for this?
I do.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on, on Fuller Street, Carver. It's 40 Fuller Street.
Move to close the hearing for 40 Fuller Street.
Public hearing, okay.
Second.
So John Gatsky made the motion, Ellen second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote to close the public hearing.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson
Is
recused.
recused. Okay.
Ellen Sedillo, aye.
Okay. All right, so,
Bruce,
yes.
it's a public hearing.
So can I get the vote?
Only if we have a missing member, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we're,
Right?
Oh, well, that's right, Kevin's recused from this matter.
oh, that's right, I'm sorry, yeah, you're right.
Mr. Dion says aye.
Okay, sorry to leave you out.
All right.
All right, so the public hearing's closed. Do you want to go through the conditions, Jim?
Sure. Okay. So prior to the issuance of a building permit, a true copy of the recorded decision as registered at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds shall be submitted to the Planning and Permitting Department. B, the applicant shall provide the Planning Department with documentation of Eversource's approval of the proposed interconnection. C, the developer shall submit and maintain a ground fuse monitoring and maintenance schedule to the Planning Department and the Carver Fire Department. Carver Fire Department shall approve the ground fuse maintenance schedule. Maintaining ground fuse shall occur twice per year at a minimum during the growing season. Developer shall submit an emergency response plan to the Carver Fire Department and Planning Department. E, the Carver Fire Department shall accept the proposed site access in writing prior to issuance of a building permit. The Fire Department shall approve writing the final condition of access road prior to issuance. Oh, that's a repeat, so I'm going to strike that. Any outstanding balance of the review and inspections deposit account shall be paid. The applicant shall receive approval from the planning board for all signage required under section 3580.26.2. The applicant shall submit to the permitting department updated product information for all major components, including make and model of PV panels, transformer, inverter, mounting system, chemicals for cleaning, and maintenance equipment, and be provided as part of the building permit submission. The applicant shall submit the name, address, and contact information for the system installer as part of the building permit submission. Number 2, prior to issuance of the electrical permit, the applicant shall provide the town with a decommissioning bond for 125% of the decommissioning costs of the project. 2B, the applicant shall ensure compliance with the National Electrical Code requirements on access, fencing, and security. A statement of compliance shall be submitted to the building commissioner and planning director by the electrical inspector. Final electrical diagrams stamped by a licensed professional engineer shall be submitted to the town with the building permit submission. Condition 3, if the applicant sells or transfers the solar project, the seller and buyer must come before the planning board to review the approved site plan and decision and affirm the project will be constructed according to the approved site plan and decision. Number 4, the project shall be constructed according to the approved site plan and decision. Any revisions to the project will require approval from the board as a modification of this decision. Condition 5, the solar panel shall not exceed 11 feet in height above grade as shown on sheet C5.1 on the site plan as revised on May 12, 2021. 6, the owner-operator of the solar project shall submit an annual report to the board no later than 45 days after the end of the calendar year, certifying compliance with approved plans and requirements. Condition number 7, the applicant shall notify the planning board by certified mail the proposed date of discontinued operations and plans for removal of the solar project. Condition number 8, the applicant shall provide a copy of the order conditions to the planning board prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 9, prior to the start of construction, the applicant shall submit a record of construction general permit coverage in the site-specific stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWPPP, which includes a figure that depicts the proposed location of controls. Number 10, the applicant shall adhere to the recommendation of the Carver Fire Department found in comment letters dated January 24, 2020 and March 2nd, 2021. Carver Fire Department has approved in writing any modifications to its recommendations. So 10A, the proposed battery storage system shall be installed in accordance with MA 527 CMR 1.0, Chapter 52, stationary storage battery systems. This includes, but is not limited to, 52.3.10, an approved supervised smoke detection fire alarm system, 52.3.2, a thermal runaway system, and 52.3.7, a temperature maintained operating environment. The system shall be designed and installed in accordance with NFPA 855, the standard for the installation of stationary energy storage systems. 10B, the proposed integrated fire suppression and detection systems. The design of these systems shall be in accordance with all applicable codes and requirements, including but not limited to NFPA 70, NFPA 72, NFPA 855, MA 527, CMR .100, and UL 9540. These systems shall be approved by the Carver Fire Department. 10C, a local external disconnect shall be installed in order for emergency crews to shut down power to the battery energy storage system enclosure during an emergency. D, an emergency response plan shall be submitted to the Carver Fire Department. The plan shall include, but not limited to, emergency contacts and the contact's responsibilities, safety guidelines, first responder response outline for fire emergencies, and spill response procedures. The following UL standards shall be applied: UL 489, UL 810A, UL 1642, UL 1741, and UL 1973. The following fire suppression standards shall be applied: NFPA 1, NFPA 13, NFPA 15, NFPA 101, NFPA 850, NFPA 851, NFPA 853, NFPA 855, NFPA 5000, IBC, IFC, as well as state and local codes. G, a UL listed gas detection system is to be installed inside the battery enclosure. Lithium-ion storage facilities emit specific gases prior to the thermal runaway scenarios. A gas detection system shuts down the system prior to a fire. The above comments are based on a design incorporating lithium-ion battery technology. The Carver Fire Department has received cut sheet design regarding the building enclosure and specific project details regarding the battery energy storage system. These details are altered. CFD shall have the opportunity to provide further comments. 10I, the operations and maintenance plan shall provide for the required annual maintenance and testing for the integrated suppression system, fire suppression system, and the integrated fire protection system. Documentation of the maintenance and testing shall be submitted to the Carver Fire Department. 10J, the applicant shall meet all general and site access conditions specified in the March 2nd, 2021 Carver Fire Department letter. Condition number 11, clearing limits, if necessary, shall be marked in the field prior to clearing, and the planning board notified to allow them the opportunity to verify clearing extents prior to beginning clearing activities. Item number 12, dust control is required during construction, and the roadway apron is to be kept swept and clear of any dust, dirt, or debris. Condition 13, construction equipment and trucks shall not idle or operate on-site prior to 7 a.m. Construction activities shall only occur Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Condition 14, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy and use, A, the applicant shall provide any requested training to the fire department for mitigating emergencies on site. B, a final inspection shall be conducted to confirm existing bog roads are the same or better condition than they are currently. Bog road repairs will be completed as needed. C, as-built plans shall be submitted to the town's engineer and permitting department in both electronic and hard copy form prior to the final inspection. D, in accordance with section 3180 of the Carver zoning bylaws, the town's engineer shall inspect the project to ensure it's been completed in compliance with the approved site plan and its conditions. Condition 15, the applicant shall provide the Carver Planning Department with an annual report ensuring compliance with operations and maintenance plan and providing annual generation of the facility in accordance with section 3580.43. Operation and maintenance plan shall include a schedule for maintenance and inspection activities. Condition 16, the applicant shall provide the planning and permitting department, Carver Fire Department, with updated contact information, including name, phone number, and email, in writing within 30 days of any change in ownership in or management of the solar power system.
Do we have decommissioning in there too?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other any comments by any of the board members? Everybody happy? Okay. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the special permit and site plan with condition of 40 Fuller Street.
I'll make that motion as stated.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Shea, second by Mr. Gasky. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson recused.
Ellen Sedillo, aye.
And Rich.
Good. Aye.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. And since you're here, we'll just take this out of order, but we'll go on with a new public hearing on the application of Northwest Plymouth Street Solar. And let me just read that. All right, so this is a new public hearing, so I'll read the public hearing notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on May 25th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in Carver Town Hall Meeting Room. What's the number of this meeting room? 4. Thank you. On the application of NW, is that Northwest? NW Plymouth Street Solar LLC requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to sections 2230, 3100, 3700, 3580, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw. It's located at 0 Plymouth Street with 204 Plymouth Street in parentheses, and assesses map 48, lot 2, 6 and 7, and this is to allow the construction and operation of a large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation, including battery storage and appurtenant equipment and interconnection on the active land in agricultural use. Property is located in a residential agricultural district. Any persons interested in wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the Planning Department and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair. Published dates were May 7th, 2021 and May 14th, 2021. Thank you, John. This is Sarah is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Sarah Stern with Beals and Thomas, and landowner Eric Weston is here with me tonight.
Is this yours, John?
No.
And again, Pat Jackson from Sunrise Development is presumably still on Zoom, representing the applicant. Is he still with us?
Yeah, he's there.
Yes, thank you. Okay, great. So this is a new project for the board's review. This is, just to orient everybody, approximately 95 acres, made up of 3 parcels, active agricultural land off of Plymouth Street, which was running east to west on this plan. We are very close to the Carver Middleborough line here, and for anyone familiar with this area, this is the solar-capped Ravenbrook landfill. This is also the dirt road access to Cape Way Rovers, for anyone familiar with that, down here in Middleborough. So we're right on the Middleborough-Carver town line here. So this is, similarly to the project that we just reviewed, a conventional ground-mounted solar array proposed on upland bogs that will be retired. So this is not a dual-use project. This is an area that has been identified by the landowner and confirmed by Carver Conservation Commission to consist of upland cranberry bogs, which are developable for certain uses. So we have proposed approximately 15 acres total within this fenced area, which includes conventional panels, battery storage, and equipment pads, security fencing, kind of all the same stuff that we've talked about. And you probably can't see it from this plan, but you may be able to see it on the ones you have at the table, that the proposed interconnection on this project is underground. So anything labeled UE is underground electric, and again, making use of the existing dikes between the bogs that would be buried. This is a bit of a different situation out here. So the applicant and owner agreed that this would be more feasible and better to install the utility subsurface. So the interconnection is proposed at Plymouth Street at the existing site entrance. I should mention, just in case there's confusion about the address, any of these bog properties, or many of the bog properties that we see in Carver just have an address of 0 blank street, because there tend to be no structures out there, they're uninhabited. But as I've mentioned before on other projects, for those types of things, we've been asked to try to get an address assigned to the prospective project earlier on in the development phase, so that if and when it's approved and goes through town hall and on to additional permitting at the state level or whatnot, there's an address already in place that can be as consistent for as long as possible, and everyone knows what the area is that we're talking about. So this project, if it is to be approved, has been assigned the address of 204 Plymouth Street, which makes sense where the access point is. So that's why we listed both, because if you look it up on the assessor's maps, it's listed as 0. But just for clarity and wayfinding, we're trying to use that newly assigned address too. So you can see the surrounding uses. We've got the solar cap landfill here, more of Eric's land down here, additional agricultural land, wetlands, and then a residential development on the far side, and then residential abutters along Plymouth Street, along the northern boundary as well. This project is approximately 6 megawatts in total, and as I mentioned, the footprint is about 15 acres, 15 of the plus or minus 95 acres, 95 acre estimate of the 3 parcels. I will mention too, so we've been through Conservation Commission, we were issued an ORAD, we amended it earlier this year just to be more inclusive, and then we did go to Conservation and they closed out their hearing on May 5th, so we did a sidewalk with them and they looked at all of this. We did talk through the project with them, so we do have both the ORAD defining the type of bogs and then the order of conditions for the project itself. So again, the array itself is proposed to be located predominantly on actively farmed bogs, but there is a section here that you'll see, it does look a little bit different. I just wanted to point this out. There's a significant grade change from this landfill to these bogs. And it's not as evident on this plan, but when we go out there, you'll see what I mean. So adjacent to this bog is a slope. Right now it is vegetated sparsely in some areas. And Eric can elaborate on this if the board would like, but the plan, part of Eric's farm plan has included removing the vegetation from the slope to eliminate shading on this bog. And that is part of this project. It's actually happening whether or not this project moves ahead. So when I talk about tree clearing for this project, this is the area that I'm referring to. Otherwise, there's no tree clearing associated with the remainder of the panels, that they're all going to be placed on the upland bogs themselves. We can talk about continued water conveyance and get into the detail. It probably makes more sense to do it on site, just so we can see with our eyes how this all works. The remainder of the farm will stay in production, that's the plan anyway. And really this project helps keep the rest of this farm going, as we've talked about before on other projects. So much like the last project we talked about, there's a security fence proposed. We have proposed more of a wildlife-friendly fence that we've been having success with on other projects. And this was also part of the last project we reviewed together. This developer is really favoring it. It meets the National Electric Code, but also is a little bit more visually pleasing. So we can get into that as well. And I think I believe I included some cut sheets in the application package. If not, I'm happy to provide them in our supplemental to give you kind of a sense of that as well. Battery storage proposed, and that would be typical chain link and gated fencing per Carver Fire Department and code. And then, so setbacks. So I'm just trying to give a broad overview of the project, and then if anybody has specific questions, we can go back to that, but just as an opening presentation. So we've shown on this plan the 200-foot setback, and then from the property line, and then also the minimum 50-foot setback. So you can see over here, we're so close to this property line at the former Ravenbrook landfill that the project would be very difficult to construct with strict adherence to the 200-foot setback, particularly from this side of the property. So we have itemized where we need waivers from abutting landowners and procured those affidavits. They're not in the package because we've been working on them for the past few weeks. Eric has been working with the neighborhood, and Pat has been trying to track down who we can contact at the defunct Ravenbrook operation in North Carolina. That has been a challenge, but we have, Eric actually has located a person who can speak on behalf of Ravenbrook, so we are hoping to have that final affidavit put together, and again, that list of waivers will be included in our supplemental package. So you'll be able to see when we drill down at just where that setback exists, but we are able to maintain that 50-foot setback throughout and the 200-foot setback where it is possible. We have had our technical review committee meeting a couple of weeks ago with Carver Fire, Fuss and O'Neill. The police chief was there, and Brooke from Conservation, as well as John Woods from Operation and Maintenance. We collected a few comments, predominantly from Fire and Fuss and O'Neill, not surprisingly, very similar to those that we've seen on other projects. So I'm keeping track of those, and we will amend the plan as discussed at that meeting in coordination with the board's comments to provide a comprehensive supplemental package. I haven't received a memo, Jim, yet from Andy on this, or Christina. And I also have not gotten formal comments from Carver Fire. So I know we touched on a few things, but if you get them, if you don't mind sending them to me,
Sure.
that would be great, so we can just respond to them specifically. But very similar comments to what we've seen on other projects, since this is a similar type layout and situation that we've seen. Happy to go into more detail, but and address specific questions, or if you have questions about the farm, Eric's here to answer that. Pat's online to answer any specifics about the solar itself. And we'd love to do a site visit with the board at your convenience.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Just to tell the board members and to everyone here and everyone watching that, generally this is the initial first meeting, and the planning board will schedule a site walk, and which is always needed because the topography and everything, we just go out and take a look and at everything just to see what's visible to any neighbors in the area. So we'll do that, and we'll have at least one more planning board meeting here. So there'll be plenty of time to ask questions. Before we go on, I see you have the larger field at the bottom of the sheet, and then there's a smaller field at the top of the sheet. And then on that larger field off to the right, there's like a little, there's another hatched area there, right over there. Yeah, what are those?
This is just identified as a laydown area for construction.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing proposed there, but
All right.
we just did it for measurements to understand what we had for space.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'll open this up to the planning board and then out to the members of the audience. I don't know if everybody kind of wants to look at the plans and then maybe have questions at the next meeting, but if there's any initial questions, any planning board members are welcome to ask.
Right here it says, specific items including determination of an owner installer, financial security, liability insurance will be determined upon a final contract with owner installer. Is that all? You have the owner here.
The owner of the solar array.
Okay, have you not signed contracts with them yet, or?
Oh, well, I can't really speak to that, maybe Pat can.
Right, just to clarify, what was it about putting in, is basically the dump on security instrument?
Sorry?
Can you just repeat the question?
Yeah.
I'm wondering who the owner of this project's going to be. Has that not been identified?
It is identified as us, as technically there's a project company, LLC, NW Plymouth Street Solar LLC, which is owned by our company, Sunrays.
Okay, so the project owner's been identified then?
Yes.
Is there something in there that It doesn't say that, because I can amend that if that's what you're reading.
It says, it will be determined upon a final contract with an owner-installer and will be conditioned prior to approval during the public hearing process.
Where is it in the application?
Oh, page 2?
Or what section, I guess?
There's a cover letter, page 1 and page 2, and it's the last sentence.
Oh, in the cover letter?
Yep.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
It's different from yours.
Any other questions? Clay? I know there's a lot of information there, and we'll have time to review it, but like I say, if anybody has any initial questions, you're welcome to ask. Any other board members have anything that they would like to ask?
Probably have to go out and look at it before I could ask.
Sure, well,
I mean, it's like,
a picture's worth a 1,000 words. When you go out into the field and actually have things marked out, then it'll either answer a lot of questions, or you'll have a lot more questions to ask.
but one is, you said it's gonna be all underground, so
The interconnection.
from that area all the way up to that other,
Yeah, so
that's a long way,
the
huh?
two arrays need to be connected to each other, so that would be underground. And then the interconnection will follow this dike
Underground?
underground to
All the way
up
to
to
that
Front
end?
Street, yeah. And typically there's some infrastructure at grade at the actual point of interconnection. I don't know specifically right now if there'll be a collection of poles or pad-mounted infrastructure, but there'll be something closer to the entrance, but the rest of it throughout the site.
Now, would that be up to NSTAR to determine
Yeah,
that?
Eversource, yeah.
So is it no way we could get an idea what they,
I mean,
because most of these projects we do, we say this is what it's gonna be, then you come back on, well, NSTAR wants it like this.
yeah. Maybe Pat knows more about this specific project and how far along that study is, but I know that that does tend to get refined as it's, once we get our local approvals, it starts going through the next set of processes, and the utility company does further research about how that needs to specifically interconnect, if there needs to be upgrades along the line, all of that comes after this permitting process. But Pat, I don't know if you have any other specifics to add to that, the interconnection at Plymouth Street itself?
Yeah, Sarah's exactly right. We've submitted this design to the utility, to Eversource. This is what we intend to build, hope to build. Ultimately, we're still waiting for their feedback and their study results. So in the event that their results come back with a required change, then we'll come back to the board and propose those changes and request your comments. But this is what we hope for.
Because what I'm seeing is you got a couple of abutters right there, right, a couple of houses right there. So it wouldn't be fair for them to see a bunch of telephone poles sitting out there.
Right, so right.
After, saying there'd be like 6, and then start turning around and says 12,
Yeah, I mean, there are poles in this area already.
I understand that.
And the actual entrance itself, what we're not really proposing any upgrades to, is quite wooded. I mean, you've probably driven by it about 100 times. I know I have, without ever knowing it was there. So, I think that, we should, for the purposes of this discussion, assume worst case scenario, so that, we can give you our best guess. It tends to be a collection of poles, but it could be a combination of pad-mounted infrastructure and fewer poles. I just don't know at this stage. The permit level plans just don't tend to be that specific, and so we could give it our best guesstimate and best layout based on past projects and work in this area specifically, but it really gets hashed out at the building permit stage, where this plan generally looks the same, but has a lot more specificity to it in terms of, all the electrical components and, the exact number of panels and, much more precise. Here, we're talking about, does this plan meet the spirit of the zoning bylaw and specific sections related to solar, something's going to change on here. And I think that is just the nature of this type of project. And we've talked about this before. you know, this is what it's going to look like, and if it doesn't, we'll be back to you with a change. But for the most part, this is what it's going to look like. You know, the technology of this is changing very rapidly with the panels themselves, the battery storage, all of the equipment is just constantly changing. And you've seen from other projects that they can take months, if not years, before they actually come to fruition. So, you know, I think the best we can say is that we'll keep the town posted, you know, in terms of any substantial changes. There's another opportunity for review at the building permit stage. You know, I know that the commissioner collects input from multiple staff members, and, you know, Jim's here to flag any major differences at that stage of the game as well. You know, I think that we're giving it our best educated guess at this point in terms of that type of infrastructure.
All right, any other questions?
Just one last one. What's the frontage on this property? It's just not listed.
Oh,
anywhere.
it meets the 150, but I don't have the number off the top of my head. It's bigger than the zone requirement, but I can get that for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not listed on the plan.
Yeah. I'll label it in the next one.
Yeah. Mr. Weston, if you would like to speak.
Yeah, I was just going to add, and I'm sorry, I can't read your name. I was just going to add for you, again, I think on your sidewalk, these are things we could look at, because I am in communication with the neighbors and the abutter to one side, and then there's a kind of a hill to the other, so I think you'd see that that entrance we're talking about, where there could be a few telephone poles, is sloped and wooded, so it's fairly sheltered. So, but I think these are things that certainly we'll see on your walk.
Okay.
And not to get ahead of ourselves, but I'll just mention it while we've got the plan up. While the site access will be over here, where Eric owns the property, I will suggest that we meet over here at the Cape White Rovers entrance, just because it's easier to find, and we can access the property from here a little bit more easily than driving by this like 3 times before you say, oh, there's the gate. So, anyway, just for everyone.
We're always driving around trying to find these places.
Yeah, well, especially these lots that are set back off the roads, like, it's hard to even know what's back there.
Right.
And this is one of those, and that's a good thing, because having it set back is what we want.
All right, if the planning board members are done with initial questions, I'll open this up to anybody in the audience that has any questions. If you give us your name and address, please.
It's Paul Kelly, 36 Leonard Street. I just had a question on the pros and cons of the underground part of it. Is there, you know, I don't know what the pros and cons are. And I guess what Eric, you know, why you went that way.
So I can answer.
I'm not objecting.
No, I can answer from as a landowner perspective. You know, the underground electric is necessary for the continued operation of the farm. The poles, you know, would be a hindrance to fertilizer application and harvest and quite a few other things. Also, it was, this is where they ended up, and it wasn't something we wanted to put the neighbors to. So.
I can just add, Bruce, if that's.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
In the solar bylaw, in the Carver zoning bylaw, it is preferred that wherever it can be underground, mostly for visual.
I just didn't know enough of the pros and cons of above and below.
It's more expensive to put underground.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we have sandy soils around here, so it's fairly easy digging for engineers, but you know, it's really landowner and developer preference and what makes sense for the surrounding neighborhood as well.
Any other questions by members of the audience? Yep.
Mike Fontaine, 218 Plymouth Street. To the same point, after this gets approved, can they change their mind and feed it a different way? Because currently the feed to the pump house goes between my property and Mark's property, and it hits a couple of poles and goes to the pump house. Can they change it and back feed that way through the stuff that's there already?
Yeah.
It actually has
I
to be.
can speak to that.
Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for raising that question. Currently with Eversource, the design is as it's currently drawn, so it is not utilizing the existing pole to the pump house through, sounds like your property. Eversource is moving at a snail's pace. So our thinking is, this is the typical design, and it matches what's, typically the best practice. But we are happy to, after the fact, if Eversource is open to it, and if it's something that you and the landowner are interested in, we could ask whether we could change that to interconnect to the existing 3-phase line that's going to the pump house. I wouldn't hold my breath on it, since Eversource is never easy in those situations, but it's certainly something we could ask, and if they say yes, then we'd be open to doing.
So my question is, if you're gonna dig the trench, you can add extra conduit to backfeed his pump house, so we can get rid of those wires through my yard?
Yeah, so unfortunately, Eversource owns those poles. So we have no rights or ability to touch those poles. We only have rights and abilities to touch the poles that lead up to the Eversource poles. So in the case of this project, we can go above ground or underground, depending on the planning board and the landowner and the specific site, to get to the Eversource poles. Once you reach the Eversource poles, we have zero ability to convince them to go underground, even though I know in this particular case in the site, it sure makes a whole lot of sense, but that's, for lack of a better word, like a separate battle that you'd have to take up with Eversource and see if they'd be open to doing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Second question, just a follow-up. Is there any foliage or bushes being planned to be planted to block the view from the people on Plymouth Street?
I can answer that if that's, we haven't proposed a planting plan at this stage. We're certainly open to discussing it. We have found in our experience that it works a lot better if we are out there with the board and collect information from the neighbors. Since you live there, you know what you can see from your yard, your home. I would prefer to have input from the neighborhood and input from the board so that we can put something together that makes sense instead of just, kind of haphazardly putting trees out there at this stage. So we're happy to talk about it.
Questions to the board? The abutters going to be allowed to go to this sidewalk?
Well,
Time you're there.
generally, just the planning board goes out there to do the site walk, but if you want to talk to the landowner and to Sarah, who usually is out there with us, if you want to go afterwards.
Well, to her point, it'd be better if we're all together.
Well, we've done site walks years ago, and it was between neighbors and between the planning board, and it would go on for hours. And, people would just be going on and on. So it's better for the planning board just to go out there, take a look, and at the project. And if you want to go out and you want to speak to Sarah, or Mr. Weston, and then you can go and then you can talk to them and tell them your
But if I see you
concerns.
in my backyard and walk my dog and just happen to show up?
That seriously does happen.
I mean, the thing is we've done this before, and if you have all the neighbors, it's actually considered a public meeting that way. So a couple of planners ago said to us, to the planning board, that it's better just for the planning board just to go out there. It's not considered a public meeting. You don't have to take notes. We don't have to get everybody's names and addresses as we're walking. I mean, I've actually done these things years ago where we've had 50 people in the neighborhood, and plus all the planning board members and the Conservation Commission, and people were everywhere. I mean, and it was impossible to do. But like I say, the best thing is to get together after we meet, schedule a time. You could do it the same day that we do. While Sarah, maybe Mr. Weston is there right after we do our walk. You could certainly hook up with them and talk to them, and then bring your input back to the next meeting.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
One more question. The battery storage, is there any noise that comes with that?
I'm going to defer to Pat on that.
No, there's not. It's a lithium-ion system similar to what's in your phone or computer, so no noise.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Jen Bogart, 116 Cranberry Road, speaking as a resident. I believe I heard Ms. Stern say that the plan being presented to you guys tonight will look different than the plan that goes before the building commissioner or the building department. I forget the terminology used. So as a resident, I'm very concerned that what you guys would potentially be approving is not what will be installed. That in general, this is a general idea of what we want to do. It's pretty close. We're not totally sure because technology and things may change. But we'll come back to you and let you know, but the building inspector will have something more concrete. And it's really disturbing to me to think that a project would be passed based on an idea and a general, it's going to be pretty close to this. This is what we want to achieve. We're not totally sure that this is it. And for a board to pass something on it, yeah, the concept or something that's done in the spirit of the bylaw is not necessarily done in the spirit of the best interest of the town if you don't know 100% what you're approving. So as a resident, it's very concerning that you would approve something not knowing exactly what it was going to be.
I think before, I think what's happening to these projects, it's just the way it works, and maybe we can improve upon that somehow, is that the project is developed, and then it's given to the electric company, and then the electric company takes, as we know, a year or two sometimes to work the specifics out. They may change some things. So that's the way it is. But then hopefully as time goes on, then things come back to us at the end as minor modifications. And then I guess at that time, then we would have to decide if that minor modification went along with the planning board and with the neighbors. If you want to speak more about that, Sarah.
Yes, I would just like to clarify. This is a very well thought out proposal that has been in the makings for at least a year, if not more, between the developer and the landowner. We have, in conjunction with the developer and the landowner, prepared a very elaborate application that meets the zoning criteria, stormwater management standards, an elaborate plan set that meets industry standard, meets or exceeds industry standard, civil engineering, as well as the electrical diagrams required at the permitting level for a project of this scope. So, I don't want to give the board and the public the impression that this is just a sketch. It's certainly not that. My point in my earlier statement is that these are not construction drawings. These are permit plans. And permit plans, in the 20-plus years that I've been doing this, have only gotten more detailed. This is probably closer to construction level drawings from a decade ago, honestly. But it's at this point, with a project like this, it does still need to go through another round of refinement at the electrical level. The civil component of it is not going to change drastically. That's why it's appropriate for the board to review it at this stage. This layout is going to be the same. The number of panels may change, the exact infrastructure at the point of interconnection may change, items like that. Detailed pieces of it. But I feel that the board can be confident in this design at this stage that it is what this project will lay out to be. It has been very carefully reviewed by all parties that have put this together to ensure that it does comply with the requirements. It complies with code to the best that we can do that at this stage, knowing that specifically the electrical component will be refined. And that's really all I meant by that, Jen, that it's, the electrical piece of it does continue to evolve once we get past, this local board, the local conservation commission, or whatever state regulatory body needs to look at it. It just changes. Now, it's not gonna get bigger. It can't. This is a constrained site, and if it were to be enlarged or changed drastically, then that's a modification to this plan. And we understand that. While the hearing process is open, if there are changes made based on feedback from residential abutters, other neighbors, the board, the peer review engineer, Carver Fire, really anybody who's part of this public process, that's going to change it potentially too. So, this is the point where we're all talking about it and collectively looking at it to try to make it the best that it can be for this location. And every site has different constraints, we all know that. Some are pros, some are cons, certainly. I hope that the board, when we have our site visit, agrees that this is an appropriately sited location for a project like this, given the surrounding land uses. But we'll talk about that when we have our site visit and further in the public hearing process. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, we'll take everybody's concerns, and thank you, Jen, for your concern. I know a lot of people have expressed concerns about pole placement and stuff like that, so we'll take a look at that. One of the big things that the planning board's concerned with also is just viewing the panels too. So, I mean, that's a real big thing that we have to take a look at. But we'll take a look at that when we do our site visit and see what the topography and the and what's out there too, as far as trees and things like that for screening that we have out there that already exist. Is there another question?
Sorry.
Yep.
The road leading to the Capeway Rovers, does Eversource own the poles going down there through Carver?
I don't know.
And would it make more sense to feed the back way up towards Plymouth Street?
We don't,
I know that's minimal power.
Minimal power through Carver?
are you talking about on the road itself?
Yeah, this
So
pole's
that-
right there. I mean, it
yeah,
just seems
that's-
like it's right there to jump on instead of doing all this other.
Yeah, it would be
construction.
It's a
nice.
single phase line that feeds just Capeway
Right, but you can
Rovers.
upgrade all the poles on Plymouth Street anyway. When you
No,
do
I
this.
just know their power comes from Middleborough Power. That's all the answer I can give you on that.
Any other questions? All right, let's set a time for a site walk.
I have a comment on.
Oh, we have, okay, we have
Who's
some.
this? Your name, please?
Yeah, Sean Bogart, Cranberry Road. I think it was Mr. Dion who was speaking about the, possibility of using underground from the interconnection point, not just after the Eversource equipment. And it does sound like he was dismissed rather quickly, and I would encourage the board to, really take a thorough investigation on your site visit that, if it's your desire as a board to have that equipment all be underground or pad mounted equipment because of sight lines with abutters or whatnot. I can't see the plans here on my phone, so I don't know exactly what the design looks like, but my point is that it can change, and it sounds like you've been given a lot of lip and excuses, and it sounds like everybody's blaming Eversource with delays and not wanting to do what's right for the abutters. It is possible if they were to submit the plans to Eversource for underground utilities, not overhead, it can be done. It just sounds like they don't want to do it. It does sound to me like those plans have already been submitted to Eversource. And yes, it may take some time to change, but I do agree with Mr. Dion, and I hope the board takes that under consideration, just like any project, that if you believe it should be underground utilities all the way to the street, then that's your decision, and they should be changing the design to match your request. Yes, the possibility may exist, Eversource could change the design slightly, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find that any of the projects already permitted in this town that were given to Eversource were changed at all. I think you'll see that they've all been basically permitted as submitted to them. So again, I really hope the board takes that under consideration, with the abutters on your site visit, and don't take no for an answer.
Okay, thank you. Is there somebody would like to speak about that, or I guess when we go, we'll take a look and see what's proposed on the plan, and then we can make comments.
I would just say that, we're open to the discussion. I hope, Mr. Dion, you don't feel like I was giving you lip about that. I'm trying to just let the board know that there are a lot of factors in play when it comes to that exact point of interconnection from the customer-owned pole, as they're called, to the utility-owned pole. And it's not always within the realm for us to make that kind of demand. We have to work with the utility company, and every site is different. If there are specific requests from the board when we're out on the site, given the site constraints, we'll go back and talk to Sunrays, and they'll talk to Eversource, and we'll see what we can do. I certainly don't want to say yes or no to anything at this point. I just don't know. So I think, the site specificity and seeing it for ourselves will help determine what's going to work best for this particular area.
But nothing's...
If I may, and Ms. Stearns has referenced the bylaw that I don't have in front of me, but if it's saying that we want to keep things underground as much as possible, it seems like we've gone through so many projects and we haven't taken into consideration the interconnection points, and we've allowed everything to be overhead. And maybe it's time we start applying the bylaw to the interconnection, so it's not just the customer-owned equipment, but the utility-owned equipment as well.
Mr. Weston?
Yeah, as the landowner and as a resident of the town of Carver, I feel like there are broad issues that are beyond this project. So I'm just expressing that I'd like not to get dragged into the weeds of personal big picture items while everybody can say those things, and I'm sure they have merit on a grand scale. So I would just say we're going to walk it. I work hard to keep good relations with my neighbors. I know them personally on both sides. We're familiar with it. I'm concerned, just like you, there isn't, 12 poles, and I think that's fair to ask. I don't think that's where we're headed, though I'm not an expert in it. But I drive around town, I go places, I see the interconnections, just like you, common sense layman's situation. So I'd rather not get into, I'm just hoping we don't get into a battle over something that we're going to go through a process. We're going to see it, we're going to walk it. There may be bigger issues at hand here that develop all projects and Eversource and how Eversource does things. But I just didn't want it to get stuck in the mud.
True.
Can I just say something? I've lived in a lot of different places, and one of the best places that I lived in had underground power. Happened to be on in an area that was required to be underground because it was a hospital on that shared grid. And when it came to power outages on the 2 blocks over, where they had power lines above ground, they were dark. We never lost power. As far as the underground, if it's done properly, if you've got hardened cableways, given that we have sandy terrain around here, it's going to cause a lot of, especially when heavy equipment rolls over. As long as the power lines are in hardened cableways, it should be the most reliable form of power transmission that we've got. As far as where it's connected, since I've been on the board, it's been pretty routine that in the final stages, when it comes to what Eversource wants, there are minor changes. So there's been poles added, there's been poles taken away. That part of it changes. Again, like Mr. Weston said, It is a process, and it's something that we all have to travel together. But as far as the underground power versus the overhead power, the underground is definitely the way to go.
Thank you, and just for the record, just for the public, this project does propose underground interconnections throughout the site.
I just have a question. When dealing with subdivisions, I noticed that they use underground interconnections through a box. And I was wondering, as long as we're on the subject, has that been proposed to Eversource, an interconnection box, as opposed to, I see you've listed 4 poles, but on the screen it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's hard to tell.
Some of them are existing. Yeah, that's the pad-mounted infrastructure that we were talking about. It's like it's a concrete pad, and it has the infrastructure, and then it's covered in a essentially plastic box. So yeah, so that's the other option versus pole, or in combination with poles.
Because I see you put, I mean, the underground electric goes right up to that, to the road just about. It's just at that point. Because I'm curious too, because there are neighbors on either side, and I would expect that screening would be part of this project anyways in regards to it, because those poles are part of the project.
I have a question. I mean, every project we get, you're always saying Eversource says this, Eversource says that. But we never hear from Eversource, we're just taking your word for it.
Yeah.
Why can't we get like a representative from Eversource in here to tell us what they can and can't do?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Instead of, I don't know if you're telling me the truth or not, I'm just listening to you because you're presenting the project there.
Right.
How do I know what Eversource said?
Yeah. So you're right.
And again, Eversource might say, hey, we'd rather see it all underground. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. I think the interconnection, from my understanding, and I'm certainly no electrical engineer, and I'm not an expert in this either, we rely on the solar developers' coordination through the very regimented process that Eversource has laid out for the interconnection for these projects. And, there's a lot of steps in it, and the solar developer really is the one that handles that. What I do know is that once, that customer-owned piece ends and the utility portion begins, underground is not an option. It's either at-grade in one of the pad-mounted units or a number of poles, because that infrastructure needs to be, it cannot be underground, but it can be at-grade or it can be pole-mounted. Eventually, there has to be a pole just to connect it to what's already up the street.
No, I
So there has to
understand
be, I think, a minimum of 1 pole. But again, there's all these factors that go into that.
I'd like to say the same thing. I was wondering, do they ever appear at any of these meetings? Do we ever get a chance to talk to them directly?
No, usually they work with like with Sarah.
Wouldn't it be
and then they-
beneficial to have somebody from Eversource come in and speak with us and speak with,
And tell us what can be done? I mean, we got so many of these projects coming up on us, and all I'm saying, Mr. Chair, is they're presenting, Eversource said this and Eversource said that. Can you verify that?
Well, but that goes with any projects. You have to believe the engineers, if everybody mistrusts everybody, nothing would ever get
What I'm saying
done.
is, Eversource said we need to add more poles,
Well, usually at the beginning, you'll see what they propose on the plan, and we'll look at that when we take our site walk. And then but then sometimes things do change. If we can get somebody, if things do change radically, maybe we can get somebody, but generally in all the solar projects that we've had, nobody from Eversource ever comes here.
So my biggest thing is you got a nice piece of property, cranberries, people moved in, everything's nice, you're putting this in, and that's fine. It's what are you adding to make a change, a bunch of poles. You know, is that fair for everybody in the neighborhood to see all that? Not reflected on you, but in general, you know?
No, I understand
You
your
know,
concern.
the
And again,
change in the,
And I'm not an expert, but
So that's
I
all.
think in fairness, as we move forward, I think the recognition to Sunrays and to Ms. Stearns is, early on in my conversation, and early on in my conversation with the neighbors, he was, Mr. Jackson was very I'm like, no, we have to go underground, which is a big expense for them. And we're going, there were points where they could have tried to propose poles, and we did. And it's UE the whole way. What we're talking about is a rural community that is all above ground electric. And where my property intersects with Plymouth Street, and every single resident and every single person in this town has a pole in front of their house. Or if you're like me, lucky enough, you have a guy wire pole as well. We have these things. And in order to get that underground electric, which they're willing to expense as far as they possibly can, we're going to have to put some poles, or Sunrays is going to be required to put some poles up. Now, we don't know the details. But to go from underground to above ground, which is what Eversource has, we have to come out of the ground. I have an access road there. I have width requirements. I work with the neighbors. No, I don't think anybody wants to see a pole farm. But I also know, I'm a businessman as well, and I know that those things aren't cheap, and nobody's gonna put up poles they don't need. So, we will work with the neighbors at the time. I'm sure we'll see the plans. I agree with your concerns. I just can't speak on them because I don't foresee 12 poles, but I'm not an electrical engineer. But, if it's 4 or 5, we'll work with the neighbors to make sure that they are vetted out and that they're happy and it suits them as best as feasible. I totally agree with you. So, that's my feedback. I hear what you're saying, and that's just kind of my thoughts on it as well.
Let's take a look at the site. Let's just get a time for a site walk, and then we can actually see what's going on there, and we can look at the plans. We thank everybody for voicing their concerns, and that will all be taken into consideration. Right now, nothing's etched in concrete. We haven't approved the plans. It's a workable thing. So that's the way it is.
May I just make a comment?
Sure.
The video, thanks, appreciate it. And I totally, I understand each of the abutters and town resident concerns, and we share them, as Eric has mentioned. We're all, from one level or another, not strangers to Eversource being challenging to pin down, to communicate clearly, etc. We see that every day in our business, and the reality is, as Eric said, we would prefer less poles if we could. We're paying for them ultimately. These are their requirements for safety and reliability, period. If they could require less poles, we would be in favor of it. It's really up to them, and it's how all of these projects are designed. This particular site is no different than other solar sites in Northeast Eversource or Southeast Eversource, or really even National Grid and the rest of the state. So there's standards that we have to follow that are given to us from the utilities. Just as far as the number of poles goes, when I look at the zoomed in detail on the kind of interconnection area, it's essentially 1, 2, 3 poles, and then the pole across the street, which is an existing pole. So I'm not sure where the number 12 is coming from. Perhaps it's a misconception on the plans that could be clarified, but it's a few poles for sure, but it's not a pole farm of a dozen or so poles.
All right, okay, thank you. Let's set a time. We could go on and on about this. I got the understanding that everybody's concerned about the polls, so we'll take a look at that when we do our site walk. We'll take a look at the plans, maybe ask some questions. If anybody's concerned about rearranging or doing whatever, but I think at this point in time, I think we've said enough about it right now. So when can we go on a site walk? We have one planned for June 14th. When are you available, Jim, for a site walk on this?
Want to do it Tuesday? Or Connie can't make it?
Geez, Mondays and Fridays are my best days.
Want to
But
try Friday then?
yeah, sure.
That Friday, I may not be available. On the 18th, if you're talking the 18th, I might, one of the few days that I won't be able to do it, but, I mean, I could go out there with Jim or someone else too.
Oh, on to the 21st.
Our next meeting is on the 22nd, so we probably, I mean, we could do it the 21st, it's the day before the planning board meeting.
Is Friday the 11th a possibility?
Friday the 11th. I'm open Friday the 11th.
I only ask because it would give us some time to address any plan changes or
Right.
updates before the next meeting for the
Right.
board to review and for Fuss and O'Neill to react to. So
Right.
that's really the only reason I ask for something a little bit ahead of the next meeting, since we have the time to address that.
I guess it's up to Jim. Of course, Friday's usually a half a day here, and I know he works many
Do it
nights.
at noon time?
If it's all right with you.
Sure, let's do the 11th.
So Friday at, say, 11 o'clock, on the 11th at noon time?
Yeah,
Okay. So
you're buying lunch, right?
I don't know if it's up to me or not, but let me see. So we're going to, and what's the address?
204 Plymouth Street.
Okay.
Although it doesn't exist yet, so you just need to
Actually-
use like
Is that a bad day for you?
224.
No, that's right across the
Is that
street. I can walk over there any time.
I was gonna say, it's, I just have a car on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Construction, so if you come up to Plymouth Street,
So,
just before you approach
so
the town line,
any other day would be
there's a dirt
fine.
road on the left for Capeway Rovers, and it is adjacent to the landfill solar farm.
Other than
No, I
That's-
don't.
That's where they meet.
Well, if you want, I
It's good for
mean,
you.
It's right, directly after the last house in Carver on the
It's
left.
right here.
We've got to change the plans?
flexible. So I'm flexible, you just name
Well,
a
I
date
know
when you,
That's,
most of the
we'll
board
just
can
meet
make
right
it.
there. We'll
yeah,
just
I
meet
mean,
right
if you
here
if
off
you
the
need,
side of the
if
street.
you
There's
need
plenty of room for everyone to pull over.
if you need a ride or
We
anything.
can do the plan like we've done.
I
on
was
the
that
sites
one
and
in
then
5
just
minutes,
drive
now on the
site.
bike, it's, some of these.
But it's a good place to meet because you can see
Yeah.
the elevation change.
You're talking about Capeway Road?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, how's that work with everybody?
That's fine.
I'm
All
fine
right.
with that.
All
What's
right.
that?
The site walk would be the June 11th.
June 11th?
At 12.
Sounds good.
All right.
I will, it's in the calendar. Work it out.
Okay. So, I'll make a motion, so I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing of NW Plymouth Street Solar, which is 0 Plymouth Street, so it says here, or 204 Plymouth Street. So to continue the public hearing to June 22nd at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
I so motion.
Okay, so Mr. Shea made the motion. Here a second?
Second.
John Gasky, second. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sordillo says aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll see you at the site visit.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. All right, so,
Was it Friday the 11th for the sidewalk?
Yep, Friday, the 11th.
okay, so we'll go on to number 6. This is on the application of David Mulcahy, 1929 Development, Inc., requesting a special So this is a continuation of a public hearing requesting a special permit and site plan review under section 2230, 2330, 3100, 4300, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw. And this is located at 157 North Main Street in Carver for the construction of a 5,000 square foot craftsman tradesman building in order to operate deer tick and mosquito control business in a highway commercial district. Now, we did hear this for the first time at our last meeting, and some of the members did a site walk, and so that's where we stand right now. So okay, so we do have the engineers that were with us on the site walk. So if you will introduce yourselves and...
Sure. Scott Bernard with Grady Consulting. Dave Mulcahy, owner of property 157 Main Street.
All right.
So as Bruce said, we conducted a site walk last week, I think, the week before.
Time goes by quickly, yeah.
We got one here.
I believe most of you were out there that day.
Okay.
We also received some comments from the peer review from Fussin O'Neill. So those comments have been addressed in this plan set. There's a letter summary that I've just handed out to each of you. Most of the comments were pretty minor. The biggest change, I would say, in this drawing, mainly relates to conservation.
Do you have another two of those? We only had 5. We have 6 members and then myself.
The full-size drawings?
No,
I know exactly where all the stuff is.
He wants all of that.
Letter.
Yeah.
Oh, the letters.
Yeah.
So the largest change that happened here was just the reconfiguration of the drainage basin.
This is a...
And that was mainly intended to reduce the amount of tree clearing in the area. And I'll add that we also met with conservation last week, and that hearing is closed, pending order conditions.
Oops, sorry. All right, yeah, we did take a look at this. Yeah, we even went into the existing buildings. So what you're proposing here is actually to, this garage is supposedly to shelter the trucks that you utilize now, which are parked outside right now, but will be, if this is built, would be to put those utility vehicles in this garage area. So actually, to me, it's a good thing in a way, because in case there was any spillage or anything from the vehicles, it actually goes into this garage where now they're just parked outside. So, I don't know, are there any questions by any of the planning board members?
What's the square footage of impervious surface going to be?
I'm not sure if I know that exactly off the hand, but all the increase in impervious coverage will be handled within that drainage basin.
These plans have been looked at by Fussin O'Neill, and you've addressed their comments?
That's correct.
Yeah. So, and you've addressed all their comments?
Yes.
Okay. You aware of that, Jim, or?
I'd have to look at the letter.
Okay.
So we got some information late today, but it wasn't time enough to print it all out for the meeting.
All right. All right, Mr. Shea, do you have any other comments?
What's this building just gonna be used for parking or storage of vehicles? It's not gonna be used for maintenance, repair, or storage of chemicals?
Correct.
So we can set that as part of the conditions?
Yeah, there's no product storage in it.
And you don't know what the full and complete impervious surface in regards to this property is?
It's included in the stormwater report.
Okay.
Which is reviewed by Fussin O'Neill, too.
Right.
Yeah. And in this building also, you're going to have drains in it, and it's going to go to a tank in case there was any spillage. So, that's a plus, I think, That's helpful for that area. Any other questions by any other planning board members? Well, seeing no more questions at the moment, I'll open this up to anyone in the audience. All right, so, okay, I'm sorry.
Would like to ask a question or speak?
All right, seeing none.
I do. Was there signage involved in? Okay. I don't recall seeing it in the original application, that's why I was curious. That was it, sorry. Thank you, please.
Yeah, you weren't going to do signage out here right now, were you? There's a sign out there, right?
There's
Oh, there is a sign, okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's one proposed sign which has been on the plan right toward the front of the property, and the detail is included in the package. It would just.
Okay.
Would require a separate application?
Yeah. Yeah, how does that work? Do we know?
Right, so there's a sign application that, it's kind of like a three-piecer through it's on the permitting website. If you go to the building department, there'll be that plan there. But we could, depending on the size of the sign and all the existing signage, if you're over the limit, then you need a special permit. I just don't recall. This is highway commercial?
Yes, it is.
48 by 48, so,
Inches or is that feet?
inches.
Inches. You multiply
Yeah, so
by
it's 16 square foot.
Yeah, but this is going to be a separate application though, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Just trying to.
because there's a fee to that, and, so we'd have to approve that at another meeting, the sign, or?
Well, I think you could do it at the next meeting if it did not require a special permit for the sign itself.
Okay.
So, looks like highway commercial, you get a maximum of 32 square feet, but then you're also going to incorporate all the other signage on your property as part of that. So,
Okay.
that'd be the maximum. If you're going to go over that maximum, then you have to get approved with a special permit from the planning board.
So, I guess we'll have to wait for the sign they'll have to bring that information to you and
Right, so
fill out the form.
and chances are they'll have to, depending, if they're over the limit, because generally I'm finding that most of our sign applications are over the limit, so therefore they require a special permit. So I think they just need to go through and figure out all their signage on their property, what that totals, and then what the new sign is going to add to that. And then you come in and submit your application.
Okay. So you'll have to do the sign at a later time. Okay, is that all right?
Sorry, go ahead.
Isn't that only the case if we exceed the maximum allowable in the HC?
True, so if you exceed that limit, and I'm just saying, based on past experience, and we have two applications here, most people propose signs that exceed the limitations. So if you exceed that, if the district says 32 square feet, we generally find that most people are proposing signage that exceeds that limit, so that requires a special permit.
Sure, I believe as proposed, we are adhering to that standard.
Okay. Is that including all the other signage on the property?
I have to do calculations on the windows. I'd also be, if we put I'll remove those if we put the Walnut tree up.
Yeah, you may have to do that, yeah.
That's one, that's agreeable on my side, is removing that and putting that
Okay.
permanent sign in the wall.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Which that, what's proposed is 16 square feet.
one last question. This building's proposed to have 3 bathrooms in it?
Yes.
Because that wasn't previously noted on any of the plans. Concom was made aware of this, and they've come up with,
Yeah, we have factored in, per Title V, the additional flow to the septic system.
So-
There are some changes to the septic system that are also proposed with this, and Conservation is aware of that.
are they on the plans?
Do we have the, do we have the
Proposed
approval from the?
changes? Where is your septic system located? and-
Sorry.
The leaching field itself will not change. There are, I believe that the septic tank and pump chamber will be moved, just due to slope coming from the building. But the system is sized appropriately for this use.
Do you have approval from the health department in regards to that?
I don't have an answer to that question.
Because if you're doing this and adding septic, I believe you're going to have to, we're going to have to hear from the health department in regards to this.
The system itself is sized to handle this flow. There were some changes. I believe initially the front building was considered residential. So the rules for sizing residential versus, commercial and all that are different.
Right, no, I know. I'm just wondering, I'd like to have the health department's recommendations as well as the Conservation Commission's recommendations in regards to this. And that should have been part of the application process, if I'm not
Well,
mistaken.
you went to the Conservation.
Yeah.
and
The hearing has been closed and they're ordering us in order conditions.
Order conditions, okay, so we'll have that as part of the, that'll be a condition, is that they have to submit the order conditions. Then usually what happens is that at the site plan special permit level, the plans get approved, and then the next step is when they're getting ready to build. It goes, before they get the building permit, then they have to reach out to the Board of Health to get approval for a septic system in wells if they need additional wells on the property.
Okay.
But it's really just a wind building.
Yeah, planning board really doesn't concern themselves with the septic. That's the Board of Health. That's up to the Board of Health. And then usually septic's designed by the number of bedrooms, so I don't know how it would go if you just add just extra toilets to the place or bathrooms.
Yeah, that's correct. The number of bathrooms don't affect the design of the system.
Yeah, right. It's just by number of bedrooms, so.
Or employees for commercial.
Employees, yeah.
Yeah, or employees. And the amount of employees aren't going to change to what you have right now.
Correct.
Okay, so that really shouldn't be a concern.
Well, I was more concerned at the fact that there's just new information being handed us at this moment that wasn't.
Sure, no, I understand.
The plans.
The connection to the septic system has been on the plan since the first submittal. So that's not a new change.
Any other questions by board members? Anybody in the audience? Well, there's nobody in the audience, nobody's responded, so
Anybody on Zoom have a question, comment?
seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the application of David Mulcahy on 157 North Main Street.
I also make that motion.
Second that.
So I have a motion by Mr. Shea, second by Ellen Sodillo. Further comments? Seeing none, let's take a vote. Mr. Shea.
On whether to approve this?
No, to close the public hearing.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
All right. Do we have conditions for this?
No.
You haven't come up with conditions yet?
Because we're still waiting, the letter from Fussnell, didn't come in a timely fashion to.
Okay, so you want to, okay.
So probably, best bet is if there are conditions that members want to see in the conditions, we can discuss that tonight, and then I can add them in.
Okay.
And have something ready for the next meeting.
All right. Any concerns by anybody? Anybody would like to?
Well, mostly just vehicle repair, maintenance, storage of chemicals.
Okay.
Those were my big things in that area.
Okay. Anything else by any planning board members? And we'll go through it. Jim will read them the night that
Yeah, where is the vehicle maintenance going to be done?
I do very little vehicle maintenance on the equipment. We have a mechanic that's in Pembroke that does most of our.
Okay, it's off-site?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so let's entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to June 22nd at 7 o'clock. And at that time, we'll look at approving and we'll look at the conditions. So, is that all right?
So I'll make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Shea made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Gasky, second. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Mr. Shea.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we've done that. Okay, we have, number 7 on our schedule here is on the application of Galehead Development. This is a public hearing that's continued on the application of Galehead Development requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to section 2230, 3100, 3700, 3580, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw. It's located at 0 Meadow Street to allow the construction and operation of approximate 1 megawatt large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation. And the property is located in a residential agricultural area. So is anybody here to represent this project?
They're not physically in the room.
Ah,
Hi there, yeah, we're on Zoom. We have Jocelyn Gambon here from CHB, and then also Lucas from Galehead Development.
Did you get the names? Could you repeat those names slowly so that they can be recorded here?
Sure thing, it's Jocelyn Gambon
Can you
from
spell,
VHP.
can you spell that, please?
JOCELYN
Okay, thank you. And
Lucas Faria, representing Galehead Development. Lucas, Lucas, and last name Faria, F as in Fox, Aria.
all right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so what do you have for us tonight? This is,
So, yeah, I think we just wanted to update you where we are in the process. We recently received a comment letter from Fuss & O'Neill. Earlier today, we did submit a response to comments letter to the planning board, as well as Fuss & O'Neill and the fire department. We received comments from the fire department as well. Understand that no one's probably had a chance to look at those yet, so don't expect any comments or reactions to that. But I think we were just hoping to schedule a site walk and then answer any other questions that the board may have at this time.
All right, thank you. Jim, what were our concerns here? And there were some things that have been answered and others that haven't been answered.
Right, so one had to do with site access. Excuse me, the applicant, or the owner of the property, had done a definitive subdivision plan to put on a road that's called Cobblestone Lane that comes off of Meadow Street. And then so that created two lots. One was a larger agricultural lot, and then there was another lot that was a house lot. And I think there's some pictures of that in some of the paperwork you got there. The forest of trees we cut down. So I had and then there was also an opinion letter from Gail Head's attorney, speaking towards, their thoughts on site access. So whenever you get an attorney's opinion, then you go to your attorney to get their opinion. And so Amy Questel from KP Law kind of responded to a request for an opinion on this. And basically, you have a copy of this in your file. So basically, there was an A&R lot that was created that caused a nonconformity with their frontage, because the frontage requirement's 150 feet in the RA zone. And what she was suggesting is that there's information about, or the applicant's attorney made the case that this was a merger, two lots for zoning purposes. And Amy Questel said no, that that's not the case. But they could, they can file a new A&R plan to create lots that are meet the frontage requirements.
Right.
Sorry for badly paraphrasing that letter, but that's kind of the thought. This came in late this afternoon. And then the other kind of concern that Gailhead has is with the requirement for all direct abutters to provide waivers for a reduction in setback. So there's one area on the plan where they're asking to reduce it to 50-foot setback. One of the challenges, though, is the language in the bylaw says all direct abutters, where you might have an abutter that's well over 800 feet away from, so they're not waiving their 200 feet because they're so far away from where the solar panels are going to be. And so Gailhead did send me a attorney opinion on that from their attorney. It was later on this afternoon. I hadn't had a chance to print it out. We can print it out for the next meeting. So those are the two major concerns. I don't know if Gailhead has any comments they want to make regarding that. I know that that's one of the concerns, is that if you don't get all the direct abutters to agree to a waiver, then that puts the project kind of in a tough position.
So we still have to get a legal opinion on that from our attorneys?
Right, so I have to take a look at what they sent me and then send that up to Fuss and O'Neill to say, okay, here's another issue is with this particular piece. So they would still have to solve the frontage issue, and then also solve the waiver issue.
Yep. And hi, this is Lucas. Jim, just want to jump in here and address those 2 points. So I did receive that letter from KP Law this afternoon. Haven't had the time to review it with our counsel, but we'll definitely take a look at it. And just to recap what you said, it says that a merger is not necessary. So they're recommending simply file a new A&R plan, combining the lots. But we'll definitely take a look at that, and we can follow up offline, because we just haven't had time to review that since this afternoon. But I do have in regards to the second point, I do have the letter that addresses the abutter setback in front of me. I don't know if it's helpful to read just 2 or 3 sentences for the board, or if you'd like to take some time to review offline as well.
Go ahead and read it.
Okay, sure. So it is therefore our opinion that section 3580.25(1)(a) of the Carver zoning bylaw should be read so as to require dimensional setback waivers only from those abutters who are directly impacted by said waiver. This certainly makes sense from a broader legal context, as only those immediately impacted abutters would have legal standing to sue or challenge the applicant or planning board's decision in the event that there were an approval without said waiver. It is our opinion that while the planning board certainly has discretion in the interpretation and application of the town's zoning bylaws, and the appellate court grants a presumption in favor of the planning board's interpretation, in this instance, there does not seem to be a public benefit or legislative purpose supporting the board's current interpretation. So this is just the conclusion part. There's definitely more details to it, and I welcome any feedback.
I believe that we covered it with the 600-foot setback for the project area, didn't we?
Well, there's 600 feet, but then that's in situations even where there's no waivers required. So in this case, there's one area, I believe, can't remember the side, Lucas, where you're requesting it down to a 50-foot setback from an abutter's property line.
Wasn't this rejected at town meeting?
No, it didn't go forward at town meeting. So it was sent back for study. So
essentially rejected.
Well, no, but you can still request a 50-foot setback, but I talked to Bruce. I said, well, what's been the board's practice on the setbacks? And he said, well, we generally go by the all direct abutters language and follow that.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever run into a situation that, either all the abutters were on board or they weren't on board.
Right.
So it was pretty clear cut, where you should go with this. I know we've had a discussion about this before, but I think it was on a project that never came about, maybe. So, I don't know, I think we, no matter what, I think we have to get a legal opinion from KP Law, see what they have to say about it, because I just want to make sure that we get this right. I mean, every time we go into a solar project, there are so many things that are in consideration to the planning board, and then there's just new things that come up all the time, and there are mistakes that can be made, so we just want to make sure that we get this right to the best of our ability.
I'd just like to get a sense of the planning board. So where it says all direct abutters are, have to sign off on the waiver, is that how the planning board sees it? That is there any interpretation? Is there any, only some direct abutters have to sign off, or do you believe all direct abutters have to sign off?
I mean, so what are you saying in this instance, that one of the people that's not signing off on the waiver owns several acres of land and their house is far away from the solar field? Is that what the thing is?
Right. So you have some houses, so the solar field is down in the lower section of the agricultural land.
Yeah.
And so there are waivers being required from people who are, you know, maybe 500, 600 more distance away. And so, you know.
Well, are they, as far as the direct abutters that are an extended distance away,
physically,
do they understand that the project is not coming within 50 feet of their area?
I'll have to leave that to Lucas to answer.
I mean, I can't imagine that somebody would have that kind of a pushback unless they thought that you were going to expand and come into their area without further addressing that distance.
Yep, exactly. And if I understand correctly, we're only seeking the waivers from anybody that we are reducing the 200 feet to 50 feet. And that this is essentially our argument. This is the zoning council letter that we presented to the board today for their review. Anybody that's above that 200 feet, they're not being affected because the 200 feet is already the baseline for the bylaws. So that's our interpretation.
Well, generally, it's any property that touches the project property. It doesn't matter physically where the houses are or how big the other properties are. I mean, that's the way that I believe that we've always treated it. And I think that if we want to change these things at some point in time, I mean, because all these projects, there's different things that come up all the time. But I think what happened at town meeting, we proposed too many changes at one time. People couldn't digest that. I think it's important if you're going to go to town meeting, you just have one or two things that you can easily explain. And but anyway, as of right now, you know, anybody that touches the property, they have to go by the setbacks. If they don't sign the waiver request, then I guess I'm pretty sure that it just doesn't go through. It just doesn't happen. So, but we have to talk to KP Law to make sure that that's how they interpret it.
How many direct abutters are there? 4?
Okay, understood. Yeah. So I welcome any feedback from KP Law.
I think, I think we got to do that just to make sure. Then
So Lucas, questions being asked, how many direct abutters are there to the project site?
So that's, in terms of total abutters, we have 7 for this property. In terms of the direct abutters that we're getting these setbacks from, we only have 1 actually. So we only have 2, sorry, 2 direct abutters that we're getting this 200 feet to 50 feet reduced.
All right, have you approached any of the other property owners yet to, you know, so you get 2 out of the 7, so you get 5 to go, and you couldn't go and get waivers from those remaining abutters?
So I don't understand, if you're only going to ask 2 of the neighbors to sign an affidavit to reduce their
Right, so their argument is
setbacks.
that they're asking those who are getting the 50-foot setbacks, they're getting the waivers from them.
Yeah.
But if there's a total of 7 direct abutters, why not go to those remaining 5 abutters to see if you can get those waivers from them?
Lucas, you have more than 2 waivers, though, that we had submitted earlier today.
Yeah, that's correct. So we are, there is an ongoing effort to get all of those abutter signatures. It just so happens that for this property, there is a very high number of abutters, and it's taking a lot of resources from both our team and just the whole general process. But that's part of the reason why we believe that those that are directly impacted, so the direct abutters, that have that 200 feet to 50 feet reduced should be the ones that are considered for this setback requirement. Whereas if the abutter has 800 plus feet and is not being affected, then our interpretation is that there's no need to get that abutter's signed waiver because he's already being granted a 200 plus feet from his property.
Right, we got the black and white of the bylaw.
Yeah, I think you get, there's a, I think you get it doesn't make sense that you would have to, if a person already has 200 feet from his property line, why he would have to sign a waiver. Because he's already getting the
Right,
maximum.
but that's what the bylaw, but the bylaw requires that. So the bylaw requires all direct abutters to sign the waiver. I didn't write that.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense though, but to me it doesn't.
But sometimes, sometimes you just have to say, okay, how many direct abutters are there? I mean, if there's only 7, why not go out, just get those 7 and be done with it?
Well, if they don't want to sign
If I'm
it.
wrong, but we have 6 of the 7 affidavits signed, correct? And that's what was submitted earlier today.
So there's one that hasn't signed it.
I believe we have 5 of the 7 that have signed. We're missing 2 of them.
All right.
But then there's still the other problem, which is, the frontage issue.
Well, I think the frontage can be overcome one way or another, but this direct abutter thing, it's just gonna have to be worked out. I don't know, we'll have to talk to KP Law, and I mean, we could go on this, talk about this all night long, but it's not gonna go away. We gotta get an opinion on it, and see, we've talked to people that were on the bylaw committee. Some people thought that was miswritten. And but anyway, it is what it is, and we have to go by it. And the only thing we can do is change it at town meeting if it becomes necessary, and if that can be done.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we got to find out, what can be done with that bylaw legally. So I think we got to go to KP and ask them. So moving on with that, should we do a site walk? Do you want to do a site walk with us right now? I mean, will it happen or not? Or should we wait till we get an opinion from KP and then plan a site walk then?
Well, I think it makes sense to do a sidewalk now if you guys want to schedule one within the coming weeks.
All right, let's, what do you think, Jim? You want to do this site walk?
Leave it up to the board.
So what does the board think? Do you think we should wait till we get a legal opinion from KP?
I'd say wait till we find out. What if he says no and it's over with, right?
Yeah.
I would get a definite answer.
Okay, let's do it this way. Let's get our opinion from KP Law, and then Jim can email us, and then we'll and through emails we can kind of schedule a site visit if it looks like this thing had a possibility to go through, so that we could take a look at it then. I just don't want to go out for. We already have several site walks to do for other projects. I just don't want to go out, schedule something that may not happen unless we get a legal opinion. So how about leaving it like that? We'll wait till we get our legal opinion and then we'll schedule a site walk. We don't have to wait till our next meeting. Maybe we could Jim could send out emails and we'll come up with the time.
In the interest of time, would there be any chance to maybe schedule a site walk within 2 weeks, and within that timeline, we can expect to get an answer from KP Law, and that way we already have the time that's set before the next meeting. That way it doesn't slide until after the next meeting.
We could always postpone the walk if we don't have the opinion beforehand, I guess.
I know, I think we still got to get our opinion. Hopefully, we can get it soon enough. I mean, you could go out there and mark the corners of the fields out there so that when we do schedule the walk, we could do it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
All right. All right, so let's continue this public hearing for application of Galehead Development for 0 Meadow Street. To continue the public hearing to June 22nd, at 7 o'clock.
I will make that motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Shea, second by Mr. Gatsky. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Cornelius Shea says aye. John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sordillo, aye.
All right, okay, thank you. So we'll schedule this for our next meeting, and hopefully we'll hear from KP Law quickly, and we'll notify you so we can set up a site walk as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, so, all right, on the application, so we have another public hearing. Let's roll up these plans here. The last times. Thank you. All right, so let's go on to number 9. And this is a new public hearing. In accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on May 25th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 4, on the application of Nutrien AG Solutions, Inc., requesting a special permit pursuant to Sections 3570 and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located at 96 Forest Street in Carver, Mass. Assesses map 49, lot 62-6-R, to exceed the signage dimensional requirements in the general business district. Any persons interested and wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the planning department, may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair. Carver reported dates May 7th and May 14th of 2021. So, is there anybody here? Oh, okay. I was wondering why you were here. We finally got to you. Okay, if you want to, get it. Yeah, you could speak there and give us your name and address.
Jeffrey Utley, 9 McFarland Road, Carver.
Okay, so what do you have for us tonight?
Basically, I'm going in front of the board to be able to put signage on my facility, basically. It's an oversized sign. It's larger than what is usually permitted for town, and that's what I'm here tonight.
All right. Oh, so, okay, so you have a 2 foot by 11, and then you
Yes,
have
the
a
sign
6
is,
foot by 6 inch?
78 inches long, 6 foot 6 inches, and the height will be 35 inches or 2 foot 11 inches.
Okay. Okay, and that's going on the new building that's being built. So is that going to go like the big, it's going to go right in front, right center?
Correct. Above the actual porch area.
Okay.
Is it going to be lit?
It's not going to be lit, no.
And what's the maximum density, 16 square feet?
Yep, 16 square feet
And this
is the general business.
18.96.
So that's why he's here tonight for, yes, special permit
Yes.
to go over the size. So any questions by any of the planning board members? Well, I like the building.
Thank you.
And I like the landscaping that's done out there. I think it looks very nice. I think the sign will look very nice up there. So I'm happy with everything that's been done out there so far. Is the building open now?
Building is open, yes, we are.
Okay, so you're open for business?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it, I don't have to drive so far now. It is a nice place up there.
Thank you.
Did you go inside?
Oh, yeah, I've been in there.
Yeah?
It's really nice. All organized.
Well, that's good.
They're still setting some things up in the
Yes,
showroom.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so any questions by the planning board members? I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But this is open to the public too. So this is a public hearing. So are there anybody in the audience that has any questions? How about anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom have a question?
All right. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the application of Nutrien AG Solutions on 96 Forest Street.
I move so stated.
Seconded?
Okay, so John Gasky made the motion, second by Mr. Shea. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, great. I like it. I'll be waiting for the lawn to come up there.
Yes, absolutely, me too. Keep your dust down. Thank you.
All right, good night. Sorry you had to wait so long. All right, let's go to 10. This is another public hearing notice. In accordance with the provisions Town of Carver zoning bylaw, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on May 25th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 4, on the application of Cranberry Acres Jellystone Campground requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 3570, 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 20 Shoestring Road in Carver, Mass. Assesses, oh, I'm sorry.
Connie had a question about whether the hearing was closed.
We closed the hearing. Did we vote? We didn't vote to approve it, though.
Oh, approve the sign. We closed the hearing.
Are we
Yeah.
continuing the hearing?
Oh, this was on Nutrien AG Solutions?
Yeah.
I know we closed the public hearing, yeah.
Yeah.
But we didn't
We
take
didn't
the-
vote on the sign. Oh, okay. All right, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. It's just
We'll
getting
have
late.
ourselves.
It's getting late.
Yeah.
Mine's getting foggy. All right, so, okay, so,
I'll make
Yeah.
the motion to approve.
okay, approve the sign application, okay.
A second.
Okay, Mr. Shea made the motion, John Gasky, second. For the discussion, I'm sorry for the mess up. Mr. Shea,
Cornelius
thank you.
Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, it's the
Make a liar of me.
the double vote. All right, okay, so here we are, Cranberry Acres, Jellystone Campground. Did I was I still reading? Yeah, I was still reading this, I guess. Other side, in accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on May 25th, 2021 at 7 in the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 4, on the application of Cranberry Acres Jellystone Campground, requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 3570 and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located at 20 Shoestring Road in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 124, lot 13-0-R, to exceed the signage dimensional requirements in the residential agricultural zoning district. Any persons interested in wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the planning department and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair. Carver report of published dates May 7th and May 14th of 2021. So did they leave this up to you, Mr. Walsh?
All right.
Well, what do we
I
have?
don't know if we have it online or all, I don't lose everything in the room, but in the packet, there should be got should be a,
So this is the place where I read in the paper, they were kind of opening up well, they were developing into like a play
well, it's
area?
a campground, so they're kind
Okay.
of refreshing the campground.
Yeah,
I believe it was Shady Acres before,
okay.
and so my landmark is when you
Is that
go
off of
out.
Wareham Street?
No, it's actually if you go out, so say you take Mayflower Road out to Tremont Street, it's at that intersection, it's directly across.
that's
is where
right,
That
yeah.
intersection is.
Yeah,
And in the packet, that's what the sign looks like. And it's more, to help get the visitors from busy Tremont Street down Shoestring Road into where the campground is.
Oh, so they're putting it on Tremont Street?
At the intersection of Tremont and Shoestring.
Is that their property?
Gonna assume so.
yeah,
Like,
I believe so.
It looks like the red line.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Can't tell from this.
Yeah,
I don't think we've ever had one where people place it on someone else's property. I don't think you can do that.
Right, but they're replacing where the Shady Acres sign was, so.
Oh, it was already existing?
Right, so
Okay.
there's
Oh.
replacing the existing position.
Okay.
And is the size compatible with the district?
I'm gonna say so. I mean, I haven't been out there for a while, but you go up and down Tremont Street, so you have a combination of fogs, cranberry operations with, the telephone poles, and then, what was that one? The 104 Tremont Street,
so 4x3.
Federal Furnace, they had a sign out there that's further up, but
4x1.5.
But I think this sign, if it looks like this, I think it'd be beneficial.
Yeah, no. Bring people
Yeah,
in.
yeah. I think they had a small sign there before.
I was gonna say it'd be less than 32 if that's, I don't know what the size requirements are for that area.
Well, it's larger. So that's why it's a special permit.
Right, so the RA district requires 4 square feet for a freestanding sign, so a sign like this, it's a freestanding sign. And a maximum of 8 square feet per business, so the maximum is 8. So this is slightly double than the requirement, so it's a total of 17.34 square feet.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, so that's why they have a special permit to come before the board for a special permit. All right, it looks, it's a nice looking sign.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to go there.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so any questions by the planning, and it's not lit, it said in the application, this is not lit.
Right, it's made of wood.
Yeah.
Is it roughly the same size as the previous one? Or we just
That we don't know.
honestly, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think the one, Jen would know, he'd probably drive by it 100 times a day.
Can I help?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
No, I don't know what the sign they're proposing looks like, but right now they do have a new sign hanging in there where Shady Acres used to have theirs. So they do, it's like Shady Acres took their sign down and they put a new one up. So there is one currently there. So I don't know what they're proposing.
Yeah, take a look.
And how high is this off the ground?
It's the same post. So they already put a sign up?
There is already that looks very similar to this top portion. I mean, it's a cute sign, but there is a sign up already. But I don't think the mini golf and ice cream part is not up. So. haven't had it measured, but there is a sign out there right now.
All right, so, anybody else out in the audience that would have any questions, concerns? Anybody on Zoom?
Any comments from Zoom?
Seeing none, entertain a motion to close the public hearing on Cranberry Acres Jellystone Campground located at 20 Shoestring Road.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky
I'm
says
sorry.
Oh, I need a-
Cornelia
yeah.
Shea so makes that motion.
All right, go ahead. Connie Shea said aye. Ellen, second. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's take our first vote on this. Mr. Shea.
Cornelia Shea says aye, but I do have concerns that the sign was already put up into place. I will approve it.
Okay, well, we're just closing the public hearing
Oh,
right now.
no, okay, yes,
Yeah, just-
aye. Again, lost.
Mr.
John
Gasky.
Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, yabba dabba doo.
All right, so,
That's the Flintstones.
let's,
I was in the wrong cartoon.
okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the application for the sign permit for Cranberry Acres Jellystone Campground at 20 Shoestring Road.
Cornelia Shea so makes that motion.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Shea made the motion, Ellen Sodillo second. Further discussion?
Just my concerns that they've already put the sign up and that it's inappropriate. And if they're coming to us asking for such a largely oversized sign, almost twice what's allowed, then they should have the wherewithal to hold off on putting it up.
Okay, well, having that said, sometimes people don't know, but who knows what happened. But at least it got here anyway.
Yep.
At least it got here. Okay, so we had a motion and a second, so let's vote.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Bruce,
John Gasky says aye.
I'm sorry, Bruce Mackey says aye. Wow.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
Can I have that last one?
Oh, yep. And, okay, so that was approved. Okay, so let's go on, see what else. Okay, so we did have a continuation of a public hearing. It was on the application of Ironwood Renewable LLC, and it was at 223 Meadow Street. And it was for the construction of a large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation. And the applicant has requested a continuance to the June 22nd Planning Board meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to continue the application of Ironwood Renewable LLC, 223 Meadow Street, to our next meeting of June 22nd at 7 o'clock.
I'll make that said motion.
I'll second it.
So Kevin Robinson made the motion, Ellen Sodillo second. Further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Shea.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
All right, the next is another continuation of a public hearing on the application of Miriam Gorey requesting a special permit, 149 South Main Street in Carver for a hobby commercial kennel in a residential agricultural district. And the applicant has requested a continuance to the June 22nd Planning Board meeting. So some of the planning board members did go out there to do a site walk. It was suggested by planning board members, maybe this lady should go see the Conservation Commission, and that's what she's doing at this time.
Actually, she's been to the Conservation Commission.
Okay,
She's
so-
met with them.
Okay.
And the response I got back from Brooke Monroe is that if she were to put a fence up on the property. It would kind of come midway into the property to, clear the 65-foot zone. So she may not put the fence up, but, still wants to get the special permit. Because I think the reason why she wanted the fence was because they wanted to do dog training, but with the fence kind of bisecting, most of the rear yard, that might, that just kind of reduces the amount of property, just kind of makes it difficult to use for her. But I'm going to speak with her and we'll put something together for the June 22nd meeting so that we can at least, take a vote on her application for the, dog kennel.
All right, thank you, Jim. All right, so let's entertain a motion to continue the application for Miriam Gorey on 149 South Main Street in Carver to our next meeting, June 22nd at 7 o'clock.
I'll make that said motion.
Second.
So Kevin Robinson made the motion, second by Ellen Sodillo. Further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Shea.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
All right, thank you. I think we've gone through everything that's on the agenda, pretty much for, and then we get discussion here. So the select board, or I don't know if it's the select board or the town administrators, trying to form a town administrator screening committee. And they're asking for one of the planning board members to be a part of that screening committee. So,
I'll volunteer.
I don't know how many people want to, I mean, I would volunteer. John?
I'll volunteer.
You volunteer? Anybody else?
I
Okay,
have too
let's-
many committees.
Okay. Well, okay, so let's take, so John and I have volunteered, so somebody's going to have to nominate one of us, or both. See, how do we do this now? So we got to be, we just take a vote, or do we have to be nominated?
Well, I guess you could nominate someone and then take a vote on it, and then also see if the second person gets nominated, take a vote on that, and then whoever
Okay, all right.
gets the most votes wins.
All right. Oh, no, it's not going to be, we can't put two members? We can't,
I think, I don't know, it's only, I think they're looking only for one representative.
I think it's one from each board. So, one from each board, I believe. And, but I think also there's going to be other people in the community that will
But I
follow.
think there was a application process where
Yes.
people could submit a letter of interest and then be selected
Yeah.
that way. And then they also wanted, I believe, representation from each of the boards and commissions, or maybe
Right.
not all of them, but maybe some key boards and commissions.
Yeah. All right, well,
I'll nominate the Bruce Mackey, the retiree.
I'll second that nomination.
all right, so we have a motion and a second. Okay, so,
Do we want to have another, see if another nomination, and then,
yeah, okay, all right. So was,
my brain's kind of dead, so.
yeah, no, I understand, it's getting late. Okay, so does, John said that he would be available. Does anybody want to,
I'll nominate John Gatsky.
was there a second?
I'll second John Gasky. Can I second John Gasky after I second you?
I think so,
What's
yeah.
the
I think you
seconding
can.
rule?
Well, you have to have a motion in a second, okay.
The seconding rule is you can only have a first.
Okay, so, I guess we'll vote, we'll start with me since I was the first one nominated. So, take a vote for Bruce Mackey to be on the board for Town Administrator Screening Committee. We'll start with Mr. Shea.
Cornelia Shea says nay.
Mr. Gasky.
Nay.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Helen Sodillo, aye. Sorry.
All right, so, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that takes, so I'll be on the screening committee. Now, I'm not so sure, and I don't know if that time has gone by, where it's...
The application process is already
Yeah.
closed.
Yeah, okay, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, they actually, I think, weren't y'all voting on the applications tonight?
We had interviews tonight.
Or interviews, yeah.
Yeah.
Vote, yeah.
All right. All right, planning board member notes. Planning director notes.
Other than going on vacation, I have nothing else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah.
Peace out.
Just so everybody knows,
Trying to get the heck out of town.
if you're trying to get in touch with Jim, will you be here Friday, or you're gone Friday?
No, I'm planning to be out here on Thursday and Friday, and then the following week.
All right, and the following week. So Jim won't be back until June 7th.
Japan came home.
Good, good.
So he's home. He's going to be
Oh, wonderful.
back in the States for the next 3 years.
Out in the West Coast?
No, it'll be, and he's going to be a recruiter based out of Enfield, Connecticut.
Wow, congratulations, that's awesome.
That's
And my other son, Stephen, he was supposed to fly in on Thursday, and then we got this, we might have to do a U-turn with the aircraft carrier and head out to sea to deal with something, but then they came back in, he's gonna get the weekend off and then fly back. We had a big party planned
Nice.
for the both of them,
Great.
so they're both gonna make it.
Awesome.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And COVID's over, so everybody can get together.
Yeah.
That's right, on the very same day, we have our party scheduled.
Well, enjoy your
No
vacation, Jim.
restrictions.
We have the minutes to approve, March 23rd and May 11th. So let's go March 23rd.
Cornelia Shea motions to approve the minutes for March 23rd, 2021.
I'll second.
So a motion by Mr. Shea, second by Ms. Sodillo. Further discussion, seeing none, Mr. Shea.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Oh, I abstain.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Helen Sodillo, aye.
Okay, and then we have, next would be 5/11/2021 minutes.
I do have one quick correction. On page 4.
This is on the 5/11?
Yep.
Okay.
Page 4, top of the page, right-hand side, it says 120 foot. It should be 150 foot. I don't know.
Okay, so, yeah, as long as Jim can make that. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Tiffany. You got it? You made that correction yet? All right.
I haven't made it yet. I'm opening it up.
Okay.
Yes, he said, hold on here, don't take my job away.
So where is that located?
Page,
Page 4,
Page 4?
Second paragraph.
second paragraph, first line.
okay, I wrote it down, so I'll change that.
All right, okay, thank you, Tiffany.
Cornelia Shea would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of May 11th, 2021 as amended.
Second?
Second that.
All right, so let's say Mr. Shea made the motion, Kevin second. Further discussion, seeing none. Mr. Shea.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Bruce Mackey,
Second one.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin
that
Robinson
one.
says aye.
Helen Sodillo says aye.
All right, our next meeting date is 6/22.
And a quick comment, please.
Oh, yes.
We have the second sign.
No, Mr. Backy has it. He's
Oh.
working on it. He's been busy.
Oh,
Boy, I was,
Trying to run a meeting.
all right, there we go. Sorry about that. Our next meeting will be 6/22 at 7, so I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Cornelia Shea, so motions for adjournment.
Second.
Second by Ellen, okay. Okay, let's vote. Mr.
Cornelia
Shea.
Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sedillo.
All right, thank you and
Thank
good
you,
night,
Fran.
everyone.
Fran.
This is the recycling.